This is another session from the anatomy videos by Professor Badawi. Here we are going to start describing the anterior triangle of the neck and its divisions. This anterior triangle is one of the two triangles of the neck, the anterior and the posterior triangle. We are going to describe the anterior and its part. As you know, the sternocleidomastoid divides the neck into anterior triangle and posterior triangle, and this division for description of the anatomy of each part of it. The anterior triangle is redivided into submental triangle, digastric triangle, the large carotid triangle, and the muscular triangle. These are the triangles of the neck. Now let's start by the carotid triangle. The boundaries are: behind will be the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. In front and above will be the posterior belly of the digastric, that muscle here. In front and below is the superior belly of omohyoid. These are the two parts of that reflected muscle here, the superior belly of the omohyoid. That is the boundaries of this large carotid triangle. So, to continue with the boundaries, the floor in front formed by the hyoglossus muscle from above and the thyroid below. Behind is the middle constrictor muscle above and the inferior constrictor of the muscle below. These are the boundaries of the triangle. That is the triangle here. Now the contents of such triangle, the number of vessels or nerves within the triangle: the upper part of the common carotid, the upper part of the external carotid, and the upper part of the internal carotid. The internal jugular vein, which will be lateral to the artery, and then the vagus nerve, that is the vagus nerve over here. The sympathetic trunk, which is embedded in the posterior wall of the sheath. The hypoglossal nerve, that is the hypoglossal nerve here crossing those vessels. The ans cervicalis, which starts from a descending hypoglossal side to unite with the descending cervicalis. And this is found in the roof of the triangle, embedded in the deep fascia. The branch of the external carotid in that triangle are 5. Superior thyroid, that is the superior thyroid artery to the thyroid gland. Ascending pharyngeal, lingual, the famous loop of the lingual is seen over here crossed by the hypoglossal nerve. The facial, the tortuous part of it, and the occipital artery. These are the arteries. Also there is the spinal part of the accessory, the terminal parts of the common facial vein, the lingual vein, superior thyroid vein. All these veins will end in the anterior jugular vein. And then the branch of superior laryngeal, the external and the internal laryngeal nerves. These are the contents of the carotid triangle. The second one is the digastric triangle, the one which we can see over here, bounded above by the lower border of the mandible, of the body of the mandible. Below and in front will be the anterior belly of the digastric. Below and behind, posteriorly, will be the posterior belly of the digastric and the stylohyoid muscle. The floor of that triangle will be made anteriorly by the mylohyoid muscle, that mylohyoid, and posteriorly will be the hyoglossus muscle. You can see the hypoglossal muscle between the mylohyoid and the hyoglossus. These are the two muscles forming the floor of the triangle. The contents of that triangle will be the submandibular gland filling all this cavity, have been removed to show the structures, and the submandibular lymph nodes, the facial artery over here, that is the facial artery, which form a loop at the lower part of the base of the mandible, and the facial vein above, crossing the artery, that is the artery, and the vein will be crossing the artery in the neck, very close to it on the base of the mandible. Then the hypoglossal nerve, which passes between the mylohyoid and the hypoglossus. The submental artery is not found here, but is deep to the mandible, and both the mylohyoid nerve and mylohyoid vessels, these are on the surface of the mylohyoid, and part of the parotid gland and part of the carotid sheath and its contents concealed by the posterior belly of the digastric. That is the digastric triangle, with the parts of the external carotid artery again concealed with the posterior belly of the digastric. The submental triangle, the one which you can see over here, that is the submental triangle, which is divided into two sides, into two parts on each side, but it could be again a triangle as one, divided into two triangles, where in front will be the surface mentae of the body of the mandible. On each side will be the two anterior bellies of the digastric here, of this triangle and this triangle. Behind, the base will be done by the body of the hyoid bone, while the floor is formed by the two mylohyoid muscles which unite in the middle line by the mylohyoid raphe. That is the boundaries of that triangle. The contents are simply submental lymph nodes over here between the two anterior bellies of the digastric, submental veins which will unite to form the anterior jugular vein. The last triangle is the muscular triangle, the one which you can see below the hyoid bone here, bounded in front by the middle line of the neck, two on each side again. Behind and above will be the superior belly of omohyoid, that is the superior belly of omohyoid. And behind and below will be the lower half of the anterior border of the sternocleidomastoid, that is the triangle. The contents are simply the infrahyoid muscle, which are the sternohyoid, that muscle here, ending in the hyoid bone, that omohyoid, and two deep muscles, which are the thyrohyoid, from thyroid to hyoid, and the other muscle, which is the sternohyoid muscle. And these are all about the triangles of the neck. Thank you, and see you in other series.